All right, so today we're diving into a story that uh, you might think is straight out of like a Hollywood movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
Really is.
Okay, so imagine you're a farmer in 1806, right?
Okay.
And you're struggling, times are tough, and then you hear about this chance for a fresh start out in the Southwest.
New opportunities.
Yeah, like a land of opportunity.
Oh, such a Bowie.
Who wouldn't be tempted by that?
Exactly. So this is what draws this group of men to Blennerhassett Island, ready for, an adventure.
Adventure, new life.
But they had no idea they were stepping into what became known as the Burr Conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a story that really gives you a glimpse into the early days of the United States when the nation was still figuring itself out,
Right, yeah.
Like you see how ambition and politics clash with this, like, fledgling democracy.
And how quickly trust can just evaporate.
Oh, yeah. Suspicion everywhere.
So we're talking about Aaron Burr, the former vice president.
Right.
And these rumors are flying around about his audacious plan. Audacious is a good word for it.
To separate the western frontier from the U.S.,
Wow.
conquer Mexico, and then, like, create his own empire.
An empire, huh? Ambitious guy.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, even the men he recruited, they didn't even know his true intentions.
They were completely in the dark.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating about this. It's not just some old history lesson,
Right.
It makes you think about things that are still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how easily does misinformation spread?
Yeah.
How do people's agendas shape history?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we even know what's true when the stakes are so high?
It's hard to separate fact from fiction sometimes, even now.
Okay, so to get into how this conspiracy unfolded, we need to meet a key player,
Huh?
Joseph Hamilton Davis.
All right.
He was the U.S. attorney.
Gotcha.
And he became convinced that Burr and General James Wilkinson, he was the head of the U.S. Army.
Oh, okay.
They're plotting something.
Something big.
Yeah, something treacherous.
Treacherous. That's putting it lightly.
Davis, you can almost think of him as a real-life Sherlock Holmes.
I like that, yeah.
Piecing together clues.
Trying to warn everyone.
Yeah, desperately trying to warn President Jefferson.
Right.
And get this, Davis was relentless. He even traveled to St. Louis
Wow.
just to confront Wilkinson face to face,
Oh, man.
accusing him of being a Spanish agent.
Bold move.
Yeah, and he dug into Wilkinson's past, looking for his connections, his shady dealings.
Trying to find a motive, basically.
Yeah, trying to expose him.
So what's happening outside of this, legal battle?
Well, while all this is going on, the rumor mill is just exploding.
I bet.
Newspapers, especially the Western World, Kentucky,
Oh, yeah.
they're pumping out these sensationalized stories about Burr's supposed plot.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's not that different from what we see today, right? With media shaping public opinion.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, influencing political outcomes.
For sure.
And the Western world, they play a really interesting role here.
I'm-
On one hand, their stories made Burr's conspiracy sound almost too crazy to believe.
So it might have helped him at first,
Right.
but it also fueled this public suspicion.
Yeah, added fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Burr himself is playing it cool like a master strategist.
Always one step ahead.
Yeah, he's gathering men, supplies, boats.
And he's still maintaining this image of innocence.
Yeah, he even managed to get the support of General Andrew Jackson.
Wait, that Andrew Jackson?
Yeah, a future president.
Wow.
Jackson was convinced that the extradition was, like, officially sanctioned by the government.
That's wild. Burr was pretty convincing.
He was good.
It's incredible how even the smartest people can be misled, especially when ambition and manipulation are involved.
And this is where the story takes a pretty dramatic turn.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
General Wilkinson, who's supposed to be Burr's co-conspirator, he starts to get cold feet.
Oh, that's not good.
What do you think was going through his head at this point?
Well, Wilkinson, he was a complex character, driven by ambition, of course. Right?
But also, like, very concerned with self-preservation.
Yeah, so he starts to sense the political winds are changing.
And realizes being linked to Burr could be disastrous.
So instead of sticking with the plan, Wilkinson does something truly audacious.
What did he do?
He decides to betray Burr.
Oh, wow.
And he does it in a way that will shock the nation.
Just like that here.
Wilkinson, he was cunning. He fabricated documents,
Oh, wow.
manipulated
Yeah,
information.
make himself look good.
Yeah, he even forged this report about an armed plot against New Orleans, conveniently leaving out his own involvement.
He's trying to frame Burr.
Exactly. He wants to distance himself from the conspiracy and make Burr look like the mastermind.
Bold strategy.
And then He sends all this doctored information straight to President Jefferson.
Oh, man.
Remember, Jefferson initially dismissed the warnings about Burr.
He didn't want to get involved.
Yeah, but Wilkinson's report, along with all this other mounting evidence, forced him to act.
He had no choice. Jefferson was in a tough spot.
Mhm.
Think about it. A sitting president facing a potential threat to the Union from his own former vice president.
That's gotta be stressful.
He had to act, but he also had to stay within the law.
Right.
So he issues this public proclamation denouncing the conspiracy,
Okay.
sends agents out to gather more intel.
And then ultimately labels Burr a traitor.
Yeah, that proclamation was power. It was basically a formal declaration of the president's intentions.
It carries a lot of weight.
Oh, yeah, and it can really shape public opinion.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder of the power of the president, even back then.
So what happens next? The government's on Burr's trail now.
Right, but Burr, he's not going down without a fight.
This is getting good. He was a master of, legal maneuvering.
Right.
Burr managed to avoid being indicted in Kentucky.
Wow,
Skillfully defended himself against those charges.
he's good.
But you could feel the pressure building.
Yeah.
His co-conspirators were getting arrested.
No.
The Ohio militia, they were on his trail.
Really?
And a lot of his recruits, they were sensing the danger and they just started deserting.
So he's losing support.
Yeah, things are falling apart.
But he keeps going.
He does. He pushes on, leads his remaining supporters down the Mississippi River.
Almost like he's oblivious to everything happening around him.
It's a stark contrast to Wilkinson, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
While Burr's trying to save his plan, Wilkinson is back in New Orleans, consolidating his power.
What's he doing?
He declares martial law,
Wow.
arrests anyone he even suspects of being involved,
That's harsh.
and he silences any dissent.
So basically, he's in control.
Pretty much. Imagine living in New Orleans at that time.
That's been terrifying.
The fear, the suspicion, anyone could be accused.
Wilkinson's actions, they were almost as bad as Burr's, right?
Oh, yeah, he's operating with unchecked power, and it raises some serious questions about,
The balance of power.
Exactly, especially in a young republic like the U.S.
So it shows what can happen when someone has too much power.
Yeah, even in a system that's designed to prevent tyranny.
What about Burr, though? What does he do next?
Well, Burr, he continues his journey south.
Still doesn't know about Wilkinson's betrayal.
Right, and eventually he stops at the home of an old army friend
Okay.
in Bayou Pierre, Mississippi.
What's he doing there?
He's hoping for news about Wilkinson, about this supposed war with Spain, but he stumbles upon a harsh reality.
Oh, no. What happened?
He comes face to face with Jefferson's proclamation.
The one labeling him a traitor.
Yep, and to make matters worse, he sees his own cipher letter to Wilkinson.
The one we talked about before.
Yeah, but it's been doctored, to remove any mention of Wilkinson's involvement.
And it's been played.
Completely. His most trusted ally turned against him.
And his plan is falling apart.
It's a devastating blow for Burr.
So what does he do? Does he give up?
Burr, ever resourceful, ever defiant, he decides to fight back.
He's not going down without a fight.
He denounces Wilkinson, calls him the greatest traitor on the face of the earth,
Those wrong words.
and he rallies his remaining supporters, puts it to a vote should they continue or turn back.
Wow. What do they decide?
Despite everything, they choose to press on.
Seems like a bad decision.
It might be, but it shows how charismatic Burr was.
People still believed in him.
Yeah, even in the face of danger.
But their luck can't last forever.
You're right, news traveled fast, even back then.
So what happens?
Word gets out about Burr's location, reaches the authorities in Mississippi,
Oh.
and he finds himself facing a militia,
How big?
nearly 300 men.
That's a lot.
This small band of adventurers, led by a disgraced former vice president, against a whole militia.
What does Burr do?
He tries to talk his way out of it,
Of course he does.
writes to the governor, claims he's just leading settlers, to those Bastrop lands.
The ones we talked about.
Yeah, and he paints Wilkinson as the liar, as a Spanish agent.
Using Wilkinson's own tactics against him.
Exactly. Does it work?
I'm guessing not.
Well, it buys him some time. He negotiates a meeting with the governor, surrenders, but he gets released on bail,
Released on bail.
pending a hearing.
So he might get out of this.
It seemed like it.
But what about Jefferson? What's he doing?
Back in Washington, Jefferson finally gets the last piece of the puzzle.
Which is
Wilkinson's doctored cipher letter.
the smoking gun.
Exactly, and that's all the evidence he needs to be convinced of Burr's guilt.
He's done.
Jefferson sees this as a threat to the nation.
So he has to act.
He goes before Congress, delivers this, scathing indictment of Burr.
Wow.
Declares his guilt beyond question.
That's a bold move.
He paints Burr as this dangerous traitor, someone who wants to destroy the Union.
Jefferson's basically acting as judge and jury.
It was controversial, even at the time.
I bet.
Some people felt he was overstepping his boundaries.
Yeah, exceeding his authority as president.
But public opinion had turned against Burr.
So people were on Jefferson's side.
Pretty much, and Jefferson was determined to make an example of him.
But Burr's still out on bail, right?
He is, and instead of fleeing, he keeps charming his way into society.
He's still got it.
Attends balls, gatherings, wins over supporters.
It's like he can escape anything.
He even convinces a grand jury in Mississippi that he didn't commit any crimes.
No way.
And they refused to indict him.
He's unstoppable.
It was remarkable, considering all the pressure from the government.
Did he actually think he could get away with it?
Maybe, or maybe he was just hoping for things to change.
A change in fortune.
Right, but deep down, he must have known that with Jefferson against him, he wouldn't get a fair trial.
So what did he do?
Burr, realizing the game was up, he disguised himself as a boatman.
To escape.
Yeah, and vanished into the wilderness.
A former vice president on the run.
It's like something out of a movie.
What happened next? It must have been pretty scary for Burr,
Oh, yeah.
constantly looking over his shoulder.
Not knowing who to trust.
Exactly. Did he even have a plan?
It seems like maybe a little of both.
Okay.
He was resourceful, adaptable, relied on this network of loyalists, sympathizers,
To help him.
to hide,
And his goal was
to reach the coast.
to get out of the country.
Maybe, but every step was dangerous.
Meanwhile, what's Jefferson doing?
Oh, he's relentless.
Still going after him.
Big Time offers a huge reward for Burr's capture.
Wow.
Mobilizes the government.
This is personal for him, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Jefferson sees this as a challenge to his authority.
A threat to the nation.
He has to make an example of Burr.
To prove a point.
To show that no one is above the law.
Not even a former vice president.
Nope.
So did Burr ever think about just giving up?
I mean, what was he thinking?
Yeah, he's facing incredible odds.
The most powerful man in the country is against him.
It seems hopeless.
Well, Burr was a proud man.
Right.
He believed he was innocent.
Of all the charges.
And he was a fighter.
Used to overcoming challenges.
Surrendering would mean admitting defeat?
Accepting a fate he felt was unfair.
Exactly.
So what happened? Did he escape?
Unfortunately for Burr, his luck ran out.
He got caught.
In a small tavern in Alabama.
Really, a timer.
Still disguised as a boatman.
Wow. So this once powerful guy hiding out in a tavern?
Caught in a vulnerable moment.
Must have been humiliating.
Especially after being so close to escaping.
What happened then? Did they take him back to Washington?
He was extradited to Richmond, Virginia.
For trial.
Yeah, for treason.
And this is where the story gets even more interesting.
Oh, how so?
Because the trial of Aaron Burr, it becomes one of the biggest legal battles in American history.
I can see why.
It's a clash of titans.
Who's involved?
President Jefferson.
Representing the executive branch.
Right. And John Marshall.
The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, representing the judicial branch.
This is a big deal.
Jefferson wanted Burr convicted.
Of course.
But Marshall, he insisted on a strict interpretation of the law.
Especially when it came to treason.
So it was more than just about Burr's fate.
It was about the principles of justice.
And the balance of power in the government.
Exactly.
What was it like at the trial?
Oh, it was a sensation.
People were following it closely.
Everyone was captivated.
I bet it was tense.
Knowing his life was on the line.
What happened? What was the outcome?
The prosecution, even with Jefferson behind them,
Right.
they couldn't prove treason.
According to Marshall's interpretation.
Right. They needed 2 witnesses to the same act.
Which they didn't have.
And a lot of the evidence was circumstantial.
Hearsay.
So the jury found Burr not guilty.
Wow. Jefferson must have been furious.
Oh, yeah, he saw it as a personal attack.
And a dangerous precedent.
He thought it would weaken the presidency.
But Marshall saw it differently.
He saw it as a win for the rule of law.
And for the independence of the courts.
Exactly. So Burr was free. But his life was ruined.
His reputation was tarnished.
His career was over.
And he had no money.
He spent years in Europe.
To escape his past.
Eventually, he came back to the U.S.
And what did he do?
He became a lawyer in New York City.
A far cry from being vice president.
It's a reminder that power and reputation can be fleeting.
It's a pretty dramatic story.
And it shows how important a fair justice system is.
For everyone.
The Burr Conspiracy, it's more than just ambition and betrayal.
It's about the foundation of American democracy,
It makes us think about the balance of power
the role of the press,
and how important it is to uphold the law.
even when it's difficult.
So, was Aaron Burr a traitor?
Or just an ambitious guy who got caught up in events.
We've given you the facts.
The different perspectives.
And now it's up to you to decide.
History is rarely simple,
It's full of complexities.
and it's up to each of us to look at the evidence
Weigh the arguments.
and come to our own conclusions.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.